Sir, I'm him. Ta-da!
I'll be damned.
Alright, what is going on, guys? It's Tazz here, and welcome back to the channel. Superman and Lois continued the momentum picked up in the 2-episode premiere here with episode 3, titled Always My Hero. Continuing on from the absolute insanity that was the first 2 episodes of Superman and Lois's final season, Lois and the boys only have one goal: find a way to save Clark now that Lex has seemingly destroyed the only thing that could have possibly been the key, that being Superman's heart. General Lane and the Irons also return, taking their own path to save Clark. All the while, Lex continues his quest to reunite with his daughter, using any means necessary to conquer the obstacles keeping him from his ultimate goal. There were a couple of massive reveals this week as well, so with that being said, this is your spoiler warning before we get into all of the huge moments throughout episode 3 of season 4. But with that out of the way, let's leap right into this episode breakdown. Opening up the episode, we are met with a touching voiceover from Lois about the pain of losing the ones closest to you. All the while, we see Lois and the boys preparing for a memorial service to honor a fallen hero. Over at the DoD, General Lane discusses not only how to proceed without their greatest asset, but also what they can do to defend the world from Lex and Doomsday. What do you do in a world without Superman? Call in the next best thing, that being John Henry Irons along with his daughter Natalie. As a final contingency plan, now that Clark's heart has been destroyed, Sam requests the serum infused with Superman's blood that Bruno Mannheim used last season to try and save his wife. Continuing with the flashbacks that were established in the first couple of episodes, this time around they are all centered on General Lane. The first of which is probably my favorite, as Lois and Clark sit down in his office to loop him in on the super secret they had been keeping. Sir, I'm him. Clark has the most dramatic, epic, and cinematic glasses removal of all time, as Sam Lane just sits there in amazement that somehow, all of this time, Clark Kent has been Superman. Checking in with John Henry and Natalie, they are taking Clark's death pretty hard and blaming themselves for not helping him in the fight against Doomsday. Even though Clark specifically told them not to get involved, the guilt is still weighing pretty heavy on the two Irons, especially after seeing how it is affecting Lois and the boys. John Henry tells Natalie that Sam has called them into the DoD on a full-time basis, which means that Metropolis, Steelworks, and the DoD school will have to be put on the back burner while Lex is being dealt with. Back on the farm, after publishing her Death of Superman article, Lois gets some PTSD-style flashbacks to the horror that was finding Clark after he had been killed by Doomsday, but she is quickly snapped out of it by John and Jordan. The boys are definitely conflicted over telling the world that Superman will no longer be there to save them. This sparks one of the big conflicts of the episode, as John throws the blame over onto Jordan, saying that maybe if he hadn't rushed into action, they might have had a chance at saving their father. Down in the secret area under the barn, Jordan goes to try and make amends with Jonathan, however, things don't go exactly as expected. All of the pent-up emotion within Jonathan, shrouded in the cover of his usually calm demeanor, turned into pure anger, not necessarily directed at Jordan, but at the world. Just as I, along with many of you, predicted going into this season, the trauma of losing his father acted as the catalyst for John's powers to finally manifest. He didn't just unlock 1 or 2 powers like Jordan did at the beginning. Nope, Jonathan has the whole Kryptonian suite of superpowers right off the rip. As expected, John is kind of a natural, which of course does not sit too well with Jordan, who had quite the difficult time learning to control his powers early on. Maybe it's destiny, very fitting that in the absence of Clark, the stress would finally trigger John's powers to come up to the surface, and now all he wants to do is help. Catching up with John Henry and Natalie, they make the decision that they have to stay and fight to protect their new home. Unlike their original Earth that they couldn't save, here and now they can make a difference and fight not only for the world, but to protect the people they love. Lois goes to visit her father to tell him about John's newfound power and discuss how to move forward with the revelation. General Lane says that he will support Lois's decision for what she wants Jonathan to do, and if that means training a supersuit and all, he's 100% behind her on that choice. This triggers another flashback. This time we see Clark asking Sam for his approval to marry Lois. To Clark's surprise, General Lane is adamantly opposed, telling him that this is not the life he wants for his daughter. Never knowing if Clark will be flying off into his final fight, never to return, perfectly paralleling what we've seen in present day. Lois may have fallen in love with Clark Kent, but Sam's argument is that she would be marrying Superman and inheriting the burdens that come along with it. Checking in with Lex, he's feeding his pet Doomsday as he discusses his plan to locate his daughter through General Lane. On the farm, Jonathan continues to explore all of the possibilities with his powers as Lois sits him down to discuss her conversation with Sam. She has a heart-to-heart talk about how she and Clark may not have handled telling the boys about their powers in the past in the best way possible. She supports both John and Jordan in their quest to live up to their father's legacy. John very much so has the perfect mindset of a hero coming into things. He knows that now he has a great power, which also comes with an even greater responsibility to help others and ensure they don't feel the same pain and loss that his family now has had to live through. John tries to make good with Jordan and invite him to tag along on his trip to the DoD to learn more about his powers. However, Jordan doesn't seem fully ready to accept the apology from his brother. At the DoD, General Lane introduces John Henry and Natalie to all of the resources they'll have access to now as a part of the team. However, all they need to know in order to come aboard is that Sam has their backs, which of course he does. General Lane also officially gives Natalie a code name, that being Starlight, so out in the field in Superman's absence, Steel and Starlight will be the DoD's last line of defense. Transitioning back to Jordan at the farm, he's standing in the barn reminiscing on the moment he unlocked his own powers, until that is all interrupted by an unannounced visit from Lex Luthor. This might have very well been my favorite scene of the entire episode. Hello, Superboy. Lex comes to once again play his mind games, this time with Jordan. He reveals Lois's choice from the previous episode where she believed that both her sons were in danger. Lois chose to save Jonathan over Jordan, which obviously doesn't sit too well with him, and with that epic mic drop moment, Lex leaves Jordan to think about what else his mother could be lying about. This was again such a powerful Lex Luthor moment, perfectly played by Michael Cudlitz. He literally didn't have to do anything other than just tell Jordan the truth, and it sends him spiraling, believing even further that Jonathan is the favorite son and his mother is hiding secrets from him. On the DoD front, General Hardcastle voices her concerns to John Henry about Sam's interest in Mannheim's serum, worrying that it could lead to the creation of a second Doomsday if they aren't careful. Continuing the flashback storyline, we're now at Clark and Lois's wedding day, where General Lane overhears an emotional conversation between Clark and Ma Kent. Sam hears how passionate Clark is about the decision and how much he truly loves and cares for Lois, which starts to sway his opinion on the matter. Back in present day, Jordan confronts Lois about her big decision, which once again is perfectly acted by both Bitsy Tulloch and Alex Garfin. You can really tell how much it hurt Jordan to hear that his mother picked Jonathan over him, even if she did have a good reason to do so. It was a tense decision, and she had no idea that Jordan was the one truly in danger. She had to make a choice, and a fast one at that. So she chose to protect the son without powers in the moment, knowing that Jordan would have a better chance of getting out of whatever predicament he was in with his abilities. Meanwhile, General Lane is confronted by Lex's man on the inside and is given an ultimatum: tell Luthor where his daughter is or die. Staying true to his morals, General Lane stands his ground, which leads to him being shot and left for dead in his office. While all hope seems lost, General Lane decides to take the serum and use it on himself just before John Henry and Natalie find him. With Doomsday on his way, Steel and Starlight suit up to confront the creature, following Sam's plan, throwing everything they have at him to protect everyone on the ground. Unfortunately, their weaponry was not enough as Doomsday flies down to confront General Lane. Sam gives Lois some words of encouragement, asking her to trust him that everything will be alright. This triggers the end of the flashback storyline, where we get a nice resolution between Lois and her father, as he finally comes around on the idea of Clark and Lois's marriage, telling her that he will support her no matter what. Lex gives Sam one final chance to tell him where his daughter is, but once again, the general gave her his word that she would be protected and he would be brave. General Lane does the classic hero thing where he slowly turns away from Doomsday and towards Lois, telling her that she is going to be okay. The creature picks up Sam by the head, brutally snapping his neck in front of Lois, John, and the rest of the DoD before flying back off. Once again, such an emotional scene where we really get to see the pain in Lois as she screams out for her father. Not only has she lost Clark, but now her dad, all because of Lex Luthor. Still grieving from the loss of another family member, John Henry and Natalie return and direct Lois and Jonathan to go back to the farm while he flies Sam's body to the fortress. At home, Lois has to break the news to Jordan that his grandfather has now been killed, but he died a hero protecting them. In that tender moment, Natalie speaks up and tells the Kents that there's more to the story. She reveals Sam's makeshift plan that had to be accelerated after he was shot. He injected himself with the serum so that he would have Superman's blood coursing through him and his heart. General Lane knew that he was at the end of his road, however, he wanted to use that as an opportunity to bring back Clark. Back at the fortress, with the help of Holograndma, John Henry sets up the transfer process of Sam's supercharged heart into Clark. However, there were some concerns with the whole process, as even if Clark does come back, it will take days for him to be back to full strength. The family listens to General Lane's heartfelt goodbye speech, telling them that he knows this was sudden, but it was something that had to be done. He cherishes the time he had with his family over the years. He's so proud to have been Lois's father, and he knows that this sacrifice will be the catalyst for Clark's return. With a successful transplant, General Lane's heart inside of Superman will be just like he's there too, at least in spirit, for every beat going forward. Wrapping up the episode, we come full circle back to the memorial service that opened it. I loved how the misdirect made us think it was for Clark when in reality it was for General Lane. Lois gets to finish her speech about how you don't ever truly know how much someone means to you until they are gone. Such an emotional way to end off the episode, as Lois and the boys, sporting the shirts that Sam got for them as they say their final goodbyes to someone that will always be their hero. And stinger of the episode, back in the fortress, zoom in on Clark in his revival pod as he finally opens his eyes and takes his first breath with a new heart. This was such a massive episode, which got me thinking about a few new theories. Is it possible that we see Lex continue to try and manipulate Jordan to eventually get him to turn against his family? How epic would a Superboy versus Superboy fight be that potentially could be only broken up by the return of Superman himself? Now, with General Lane out of the picture, could this mean that we see John Henry eventually assume that leadership position at the DoD? And finally, what is the importance of Lex's daughter outside of the obvious? She was under Sam's protection, and as the leader of the DoD, that's a huge undertaking. Is it possible that she knows something or is capable of creating something that, if it fell into the hands of her father, would be a threat to national or even global security? I know we're going to eventually see Lex's daughter Elizabeth, and when we do, I'm thinking she's more important than just a family reunion. Overall, guys, this was another practically perfect episode for Superman and Lois's final season. I think this served as a beautiful send-off for Dylan Walsh's General Sam Lane. He acted his butt off the entire episode, getting to go out not only a hero, but the man who saved Superman. Lois had such a tough first few episodes, which, as always, Bitsy Tulloch has been doing an incredible job conveying through her performance. I loved finally getting to see Jonathan unlock his powers, and while I know it is going to cause some conflict between him and Jordan at first, I hope eventually they start to see eye to eye and fully team up as the SuperSons. Lex's plot to find out where his daughter is fell through, which means we're in for a continually more and more unhinged version of Lex Luthor, perfectly portrayed as always by Michael Cudlitz. Next week is our Kyle and Chrissy-centric episode, really looking forward to where we take things going forward, continuing the reign of the Supermen, while Clark is now recovering and is seemingly set to fully reappear, hopefully stronger and better than ever in the next couple of episodes. But with that said, guys, I want to know your thoughts on all of this down there in the comments below. What do you think Lex is going to do now that his plan has failed? Do you think we will see full-on Superboy suits for both John and Jordan, as well as what crazy moment is going to force Superman's return, hopefully in a version of the black suit? Just let me know your thoughts on all of this down there in the comments below. But until next time, guys, it's been Tazz, and I will see you guys in the next video.